Hey guys, so I'm just going to go through some general questions like I usually do to help understand the protocol. Some people have gone into more detailed questions in the AMA question section, and there's some people with Kanpeki that can help answer any additional questions that aren't answered during the AMA in that chat. So feel free to use the chat to clarify or ask questions so we can all understand this protocol way better because I know it is different. Well, let's say this. It is very different from some of the other lending and borrowing protocols we've seen. It's pretty unique. Shay, are you there with us?
Yes, actually, it's Shy, and I'm here.
Shy.
Yes.
Shy. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. So,
No worries.
so that's great. Yeah. So, just to make sure, let's start out that I'm getting this right. So, would I say Kanpeki?
I think Kanpeki are fine. I guess if you wanted to be
Oh, well,
accurate, it would be like Kanpeki, but I'm not going to make
Con.
it difficult on people. They can choose either one.
Okay. Well, Kanpeki. That's fine. Okay. Just want to make sure I get it right. Um, so thanks for being here. I hope you're doing well. Um, like I said, I've got a winter storm I'm going through right now, so I'm glad I have power. This time last year, I didn't have power, so I'm happy about that. Um, so um, so Kanpeki, let's just start with just introduce yourself. Give us a little history as to your time in crypto and how you got to Kanpeki.
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of people here today, I started late 2017, early 2018 during the kind of the peak of the last bull cycle, or maybe the last, depending on how bearish you are. So I started out going through a few different projects, but I met a few people along the way who I work with today on Kanpeki. Um, I think so. So Coiner is the one who is kind of his brainchild, and I met him and a few other guys while investing in an exchange, a decentralized exchange, and then it kind of went from there. So we all began to participate in this project in different ways, however we could. But yeah, my crypto journey, like a lot of people, was just a lot of failures, and until you finally made some success.
Nice. So in a few words, what is Konpeki?
So it's an incentivized, individualized, non-custodial, fixed rate, all the adjectives, borrowing and lending platform. That would just be in a few words. As you already mentioned, it's quite different from a lot of the other lending platforms out there today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So can you just kind of like, just for someone that's not familiar with it, how can one of us in this community best interact with your protocol? Like, how would we generally use it?
Yeah, so there's basically two types of users. Obviously, there's depositors and borrowers. Now, depending on what you're looking to do with your assets, collateralize them to borrow or deposit them. Those would be the two ways you would interact with our platform. And you can also be both depositing and borrowing at the same time if you choose. I guess there would be a third type of user, if you want to be technical, like a liquidator, but those would generally be bots and stuff on chain. So right now we would start with lending with a bunch of the common tokens. I imagine most people will be depositing with stable coins. And then there's also a number of assets, basically most of the assets that have a chain link price feed that you could use to collateralize and borrow against. And hopefully sometime in the near future, we'll be able to offer the Boo token as a both a collateral asset and a vault that people can deposit to.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So for your platform on borrowing and lending, what's the interest rate? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so the interest rates are anywhere from 2% to 10%. Now, just right off the bat, as I mentioned, this is fixed rate borrowing and lending. So basically, a depositor or a borrower would go in and choose their desired interest rate when making a deposit or initiating a debt. Um, Now, there's some caveats with who can choose which percentages, because there is, of course, the K utility token that we'll get into, but um, broad strokes are you're choosing from between 2 and 10%, regardless of if you're a borrower or depositor.
Okay, yeah. So I can't set it to 30 or 1 or so but it is something I can pick my own interest rate and then it's set for a certain time period.
Correct. So yeah, so the depositors don't choose any period of time, but the borrowers will have to choose between 10 and 30 days on when they're going to repay their debt by. Um, yeah.
So what happens if they go past the date? I mean, is it if I go past 30 days, but I'm certainly over collateralized and
Mhm.
um what happens?
Yeah. So we definitely need to have sort of an efficient lending market. It relies on borrowers repaying their interest on time. So if your debt is overdue, your debt will be sort of flagged on chain as liquidatable. That doesn't necessarily mean your debt is liquidated or that you can't still repay, but there are some caveats to that as well. So yes, even if you're still over collateralized, your debt would be liquidatable if you went past the due date. Similarly, if you became under collateralized, you would obviously become liquidatable.
Oh, interesting. So that's something you were saying earlier that there are liquidators, and that's part of it. Because when I was looking through the docs, um, I guess I didn't notice that part. I thought when it hits the due date, it's just liquidated. But that's something that's not necessarily automatic. It's something that someone has to perform.
Yeah, it's not necessarily automatic. In theory, any user could query the blockchain and then go through FTM scan or something and liquidate a debt that way. But I don't I don't know how much we're going to talk about this today. But basically, we would look to third parties to be the liquidator in that case, because it's also similar to how borrowers repaying on time is important for an efficient lending market. Things being liquidated on time is important, because we need that capital to go back in the vaults so that depositors will be able to withdraw and claim interest at the same time. So if everyone just is sitting there being liquidatable and the vaults are empty, that's obviously an issue as well.
Yeah, sure. Is there a limit or a minimum as to how much I can borrow?
There's so for Yeah, for borrowing there is a minimum of 1,000 per token. So you can borrow up to, sorry, it would be at least 1,000 for a given vault. Um, but there's no upwards limit.
And yeah, by 1,000 you mean $1,000 worth?
Sorry, correct. Yeah, by $1,000 worth, and there's no maximum. So if you want, you could borrow the entire vault, and we will happily let you do that.
Yeah. So that's where it comes into how long can I borrow it? And you're saying it could up to 30 days, but you can't pay it back before 9 days.
Correct. There is a 9-day cooldown, and this will tie into the discussion of the token itself. But this is all these cooldown periods and stuff, which may not make as much sense in certain other platforms, is really important here for the integrity of the token, so that people can't just come in, borrow, mint their reward, repay in 5-10 minutes, mint their reward, and then be on their way. So
Right. Yeah. Exploit it that way. I see.
Right,
Oh, cool.
right.
Well, so yeah, so that brings up a great point. So, since it's Kanpeki, is it the is it Ka coin? How would I pronounce that?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally fine. People can say Kanpeki, Kanpeki. It's
I just
again,
want to be right.
I'm saying I don't think there is a right.
Okay,
I
okay.
implore people to pronounce it either of those ways. I think that's fine.
I
But
think
yeah, I would say K token
K
is nice
token.
and easy. Yeah.
Okay, I think in my head I kept on saying KAE coin for whatever reason is how it was going on in my
I
head.
mean,
Uh,
I guess that's correct as well. But
uh, so the K coin. So what is it? Like how does that play? I know it's a big important part of your lending and borrowing platform, but just tell me how does that play into this protocol?
yeah, I mean, so the token, you definitely can't understate the importance of the token because that is the underlying factor for the entire protocol. It's just as important. So yeah, the K token is the incentivized part of this incentivized borrowing and lending platform. So whenever a borrower repays their debt, um, they get to mint a certain amount of K relative to the debt and interest rate chosen. With additionally with higher interest rates actually being able to earn more K.
Yes, there's some kind of formula you have in there. But
Right, right. It's yeah. But basically, the incentives are that, as I said, higher interest rates yield higher rewards. So there's an obvious incentive there for borrowers to take on, not necessarily more debt, but for borrowers to ask, excuse me, to pay a higher interest rate. And then, of course, as borrowers are paying higher interest rates, well, that makes depositors want to ask for higher interest rates, which requires them to stake, and we can get into that. But there's a
yeah,
sort of feedback loop.
yeah, it just incentivizes the process. So,
Right.
where do these tokens come from? Are they just minted?
Yeah, sorry. So these are minted by the borrower after repaying. So they can mint 33%, one third of their reward immediately, and then as soon as they've done that, the other two thirds of their reward will begin vesting, and from that point, and vesting linearly, and from that point, they can claim those rewards, whatever they've accrued, whatever vested at any point in time. But then that's it. That's the one time they can claim. So if there's by default a 45-day vesting period. So let's say I wait 15 days, I can mint one third of that additional reward, and then that's it. Um, so
So,
obviously, people would
so
ideally wait for the whole thing, but it's totally up to them.
yeah, so you can only claim once. So because you can claim right away, but if I do that, I won't get what's vested for the rest of the 45 days.
Right. I mean, if you claimed right away, you'd probably get like pennies.
Well,
So
you're saying it's 33% of your.
excuse yeah. So I guess technically you can claim twice. You claim the 33%
Oh, I got you.
immediately, and
Gotcha.
then after that, the remainder starts vesting.
Okay, so yeah, you can get that 33%, and then you just have to wait the 45 days, which goes linearly, like you said. Okay. So this coin in general would be an inflationary coin. I mean, it's easy to say, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are scenarios where it can become deflationary, which mostly plays into um, most borrowers exceeding the reward cap because there is a cap on it. So again, so large borrowers can't just come in and like borrow the entire vault and then get paid $1 million in K token or something. Um, so there are scenarios where it can become deflationary, but that's certainly not the intention. Actually, I think it's fair to say that the intention was to be slightly inflationary. So that's kind of what we expect.
Right. Now, something you mentioned in the docs is you were just saying there's no concept of APY or APR. I know when people look
Mhm.
at protocols like this, that's what everyone's looking for, right? That's in their mind. They're looking for that APR. So how does in your protocol, how do you get around that, or how do you um, get people to think in the way you're trying to set this up, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so we definitely could have gone the route of sort of I don't know, pleasing the people who are used to seeing APYs. But that said, I think a lot of people don't even necessarily understand where APYs come from, and APYs are more of a projection, and those numbers can change at any time. So we don't really represent anything in APYs or APRs in the app. We think people can just get used to, what you see is what you'll earn, so to speak. So yeah, we don't really make a point to reflect anything in APYs there.
Yeah, because that's an important point to re-hit here is that you're setting your interest rate and it doesn't change. So if you set it at 2% or something, that's where it is. So if you set it at 2% for your lending, you need a borrower to come in. Like this is just like a peer-to-peer kind of thing. You're not acting as a middleman in that sense.
Um, yeah, I mean, we certainly we don't have custody of any of these funds or vaults or whatever. I wouldn't say peer to peer. It's more peer to vault. So I guess the vault in this case you could describe as the middleman, which is just
Yeah, that
basically the
makes
same as most of these platforms currently work. But yes, you're not earning anything. Like it's not like we're taking the funds and then going out and applying strategies to them like a lot of platforms do. Nothing wrong with that, but yeah, and then also that's the reason for no APR. So yeah, as a depositor, you would wait for people to repay interest to the corresponding interest vault for that asset, and then you could see in the app on your dashboard how much interest is available to claim. So let's say there's whatever after 10 days, let's say there's $5,000 out of your 10,000 USDC that's supposed to be which is your max interest. Let's say you deposited 100,000 at 10% or whatever. At that point, you could certainly it's after the 9 days, so you could choose. Excuse me, that's for borrowers. So after your lockup period as a depositor, you could choose to withdraw that 5,000 or wait for 10,000. But that number should, fluctuate slightly. But yeah, the way we I guess this will lead into the way we avoid people just depositing money and then some interest has been and then sort of stealing from those interest vaults is depositors are only able to claim interest that has been repaid after they've deposited. So there's sort of these tiers that build up.
So with your K token, is there now you're minting it, but is there an advantage to holding it? Is there anything I can do with it? How is it? How does the K token apply into your protocol other than minting?
Yeah, definitely. So there'd be no point to it if it was just minting a reward and then just a speculative price on the token. So for borrowers and depositors, they both get a 25% discount on the fees if they are staking the token. And these stakes are always relative to the amount that they are borrowing or depositing in total. And they're separate stakes. So let's say someone wanted to be a borrower and a depositor, they would have separate stakes for both. So yeah, for borrowers, besides that discount on the fees, the reward cap in K goes up by 33%. So the cap is relative to $7,500 if you're not staking $10,000 if you are, which is just the number.
That's a pretty big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's just can incentivize larger borrows. Also for borrowers, there's a higher reward rate for debts with higher durations. So there's actually an incentive to choose a longer duration there, and then they get a 3.5% lower liquidation ratio for their active debts. So it just gives a little more wiggle room there for a little flash crash or something. And then they also get the ability to extend their debt by a fixed 15 days, even if the debt is overdue. So let's say for some reason the debt hasn't been liquidated, maybe it's a couple hours overdue and it hasn't been liquidated or something. they could go in there and actually extend the debt and then still be able to repay it, and that would save their reward as well. So that could be a handy feature for people.
So like a scenario, if I have if I'm borrowing 10,000 of a token, how much K do I need to get that advantage? Is it like, I mean, how much do I need to have staked to extend the extra 15 days, let's say?
It's a certain it's measured by a percentage of your of the amount you're borrowing. So let's say you were borrowing. Let me see here. It's generally around 1%.
Okay. So it's not a huge amount or anything like that. So 1%. Oh, okay.
Actually, if I could interrupt, it looks like we have Toby here waiting to join us up top.
Oh yeah, sure.
If we can add him in there, here we go.
I invited you. You should be able to join.
All right, there he is.
Yep. Do you want to see? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, that's all. I'll just let.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So we were talking about the K token, only 1%. That's awesome. So let's talk fees then. So what are the fees for using your protocol?
Actually, if I'll finish up just because there's also benefits for depositors.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
For the token. So besides that 25% discount, an important point here is that depositors can only request 3% interest if they're not staking. So that ties back into there's no max, you don't have to be staking for a borrower to request 10%. So, but they do get a higher reward if they're requesting more interest. And then if depositors see, oh, there's a bunch of people requesting lots of interest. Well, I guess I need to buy some K and stake it so that I can access that interest. Otherwise, I can only make up to 3%. So another benefit for the depositors staking would be they can they have options to stake more than $100,000 per token for any given vault. Otherwise, it's 100,000 is the cap. They also reduced the lockup time on deposits from 30 days to 21 days, and then they also have the ability to one-click redeposit all the claimable interests they have without having to withdraw. All right, there. That's it for all the token utilities. Sorry, what was your
Oh
last
yeah,
question?
no, just to clarify for fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are the fees for it?
Yeah, so as a depositor, they pay a 10% fee on the interest to be earned when depositing. And then as a borrower, they pay a 1% initiation fee on the borrowed amount. And then again, if staking, those would be 25% reduced.
And is there any kind of withdrawal fee or anything like that?
No withdrawal fee. Whenever you're able to withdraw, you can just claim whatever interest was available to you. But yeah, there's no fee, just a lockup period.
Now, is the K token also used for governance, or do you have any kind of governance?
No, there's no governance going to be used for the K token. It's something that's been discussed a lot. Maybe not necessarily internally, but we're kind of going to be avoiding that. Really, the idea is for Kanpeki to just eventually just survive and thrive on its own, kind of like Uniswap v2 or something, just to be self-reliant. And then at that point, we would have some sort of mechanism for people to basically, the same way that in Uniswap, anyone can create a liquidity pool. On Kanpeki, eventually we'd like to get to a place where anyone can add a vault for a token that has a Chainlink feed. So we would like to get sort of a permissionless place like that where we're no longer having to be have a human in the loop sort of element there.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. No, that's a great thing. So what
Important to,
go ahead.
sorry if you don't mind. I think it's important to sort of combine this last. So on the one hand, got the
You're breaking up.
this okay?
Yes, go ahead.
So yeah, as I was saying, it's important. One got the,
You're breaking up again.
Yeah, sorry, it's kind of patchy.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
we'll see. Well, we'll see if reconnecting fixes
sure.
that. Otherwise, maybe he'll text me what he wanted to say.
So what have you guys done to ensure your protocol is secure, safe? Have you done any kind of audits or in process, or what's going on with that?
Yep. Yeah. So the platform isn't live, but yeah, we have gone through an audit with. We chose Omniscia as our security firm. Who, if people haven't heard of them, they've done a bunch of some high profile names or audits for people like Rari Capital, Olympus Dow, Convex Finance. So yeah, we feel good about we feel confident about the security of the contracts. And yeah, other than that, like I mentioned, we don't have custody of them. There's no. It really just comes down to the contracts.
So since this is something you're looking to set up and then basically be able to be hands off on, is it safe to say there isn't a roadmap really, or I guess the roadmap is making it to where people can add their own tokens, like you said. Are there other things that you have plans to add before you go completely let the protocol run itself?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be kind of the end of the road. I don't think that's necessarily anytime soon. It's not like we're gonna launch and then just kind of go away. No, it's some of the things that we would need to do that aren't even available to us yet. For right now, honestly, the roadmap is just focus on onboarding people and educating and kind of spreading the word. Obviously we'll can have updates and fixes and maybe little improvements implemented to the front end here and there. But I think the general push would just be kind of getting the word out there, and from there, kind of getting it integrated into other platforms, because this is just like there's a ton of platforms out there that are leveraging, I don't know, Compound and Aave, and kind of you deposit with them and then they deposit to there and do their own strategies. If other people want to perform strategies from the liquidity from our vaults, then great. But as for tech stuff, not at this moment, at least nothing that we're gonna publish.
Okay. Yeah. So something I should have asked earlier, now that I'm thinking about it, is on the K token. Have you done any kind of pre-sales? Is the only way I can get it is via minting? Will I be able to buy it? Can you just go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So yeah, it was. So this was a fair launch token. It launched as YLD, the yield token, which was a past product. I would say it's the same project, but it's a different product that launched on Ethereum back in early 2021. So that was a fair launch token. All you had to do, there was a Telegram bot, and you just basically submitted your wallet address, and that was it. So all the supply, or excuse me, I guess it was about half the supply got airdropped to people, or rather claim dropped. But there was no private sale. There's no VCs or any other interests, outside interests in the project. As for being able to purchase the token, it is available on Spookyswap on Phantom. There's also still a liquidity pool on Ethereum where the token launched. So sorry, that yield token was swapped 1-to-1 into the K token. a couple months back. But the token will remain on both Ethereum and Phantom going forward. So there's no, you can purchase it on Ethereum, I guess, and then swap it over. But more of the liquidity is now on Spookyswap.
Nice.
So I would say that's the best place to go.
So when does the protocol launch?
Well, we're not advertising a date as of yet. People in our community will just are used to just hearing soon. It is very soon. That's about all I'll say there.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever ran across a dev who wants to commit to a date, so I understand.
I mean, yeah, even internally, it's yeah, dates kind of go out the window. But
yeah, no, I get it.
yeah, I mean, mostly we just we don't want to get a kind of buy the rumor, sell the news type situation. That still happens to an extent, but yeah.
So okay, so since your token originally launched on Ethereum, what brought you guys to Phantom and launching Kanpeki Finance on Phantom?
Well, after launching the yield platform on Ethereum, we quickly realized that the ever expanding gas fees on Ethereum were pretty crippling. Unless somebody wanted to deposit or borrow very large amounts, hundreds of dollars in fees kind of negated the reward for borrowers, which Yield also had this idea of rewarding borrowers. So that was when it was. I think development, Coiner's development on Kanpeki contracts started maybe a month after Yield launched. So it was basically the platform fees. And at the time, I mean, the fees on Phantom have gone up quite a bit since then, but they're still obviously a fraction of what they are in Ethereum. So while we would love to also launch Kanpeki on Ethereum, it's just not really feasible at this point. That being said, there's other platforms that we could definitely expand to, like, I don't know, Polygon has been talked about, but we think Phantom right now is kind of the best place where it has really cheap fees, but also a growing community and a lot of TVL. As a lending platform, that's kind of what you look for, is what chain has the assets where people are going to already use this. You could easily launch on a brand new chain, but then maybe they only have 100 million in TVL across their protocols. So there's obviously a much bigger market on Phantom here, being, I don't know what it is now, the fourth largest chain by TVL.
Yeah, I haven't looked at DeFi Llama since the whole, I guess the NFTs were given out, but I know it held on to a lot of the TVL that solidly kind of added to the ecosystem. But yeah, no, that's awesome. So so this is like my most important question that I really wanted to ask. What is K-Chan? She's got bunny ears. I don't know if it's a lizard tail or something like that. So I wasn't sure. I thought it was a bunny at first, but what's K-Chan?
Yeah, no, it's a very important question. This is, I mean, I guess this was kind of this was Coiner's idea to create an anime character for our project, just kind of like a mascot. We've got some stickers on Telegram that people can use, and we'll be adding more. But in terms of what is she, and it is a she. I'm not sure how to describe that. Coiner would be the better person to ask there. Maybe he has a response in the text chat on here, but it was inspired by a variety of characters from different anime shows, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, for people that don't know, I put an image in the chat so they can see K-Chan. No, I think that's great. I think.
By the way, does your guys' cat have a name? I don't recall.
Grim.
Grim. Oh, right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So Grim and K-Chan were featured on our latest
nice
tweet. Twitter banner.
I think crypto people, they love cute things, so I think it's good that you're embracing that. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
So K-Chan. So maybe Coiner can fill us in on what K-Chan is at some point. So that was it for my questions. I have some community questions here that maybe you can answer, or if not, that can be answered in the text. I'll go ahead and let me look at them real quick. So I got a question. How will Kanpeki revolutionize the crypto lending platform? And how do you stand out compared to Aave and Maker?
Yeah, so this really just comes back to incentivized borrowing, which, I mean, it's something that has been done before, but a lot of times what people seem to do is, or protocols seem to do, is incentivize the depositors, if not only depositors, but even in addition to the borrowers, which really didn't make too much sense to us because depositors are already incentivized by yields. So I guess in this sense, the depositors being incentivized, the borrowers on Kanpeki being incentivized to request higher rates is the depositor incentive. But yeah, I think what will make us different or revolutionize, as they say, is incentivizing borrowers in a meaningful way and having this sort of in a sustainable way. So not just minting a ton of tokens and then sort of passing it out to them like candy, but instead having that 100%. Actually, I don't even know if we talked about this actually. So 100% of the platform fees. Oh yeah, actually we did. 100% of the platform fees go back to buying back and burning the tokens. So it's really about sustainable. I guess this is kind of what Solidly was founded on too, is like sustainable emissions. In their case, they're incentivizing liquidity, but in our case, incentivizing borrowers. So I think there's a lot of parallels to draw there.
So my next question is kind of fits that same thing. So what's the incentive to lend if the borrowers decide on their borrow APY, and how do you manage deep liquidity to borrow if you don't incentivize lending to bootstrap liquidity first?
Okay, so the first question, incentivized to lend is to make returns, reliable returns, so you know exactly what you stand to make, but B, a higher rate of return. So with 2% being the bare minimum a depositor can request, if you want to look at that in APY terms, with 30 days being the absolute longest a borrower can take to repay, that's still looking at like a 27% APY if you want to represent it that way, 2% per month compounded. So, I mean, yeah, simply the incentive to lend is that there's incentive to borrow, which is just making more than you could on other platforms. How do you manage deep liquidity to borrow if you don't incentivize lending? Well, again, I would argue the bit about lending not being kind of incentivized because it is by extension.
Yeah, 27% on your BTC or something like that, single side lending is pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
And you
I
can
would say
obviously go higher than that. So
definitely, right, like someone who is using the one click. So I talked about the one click redepositing of interest, which is a benefit that depositors get if they're staking. So to do that, you would have to have 1/3 of your prospective reward available to claim. Let's say you were expecting $1,000, there's 333 available to claim. So at that point, you can redeposit once a week. So instead of the normal 30-day lockup time for deposits, you now have essentially like a 7-day lockup where you can compound. So if you're compounding, let's say you're asking for the full 10% and compounding that interest, redepositing it once a week, I think that would equate to something like 380% APY. So yeah, it can definitely get a lot bigger.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, this next question, I don't know if it's a serious question or not, and it may be. I don't really know. So, is it true that Andre Cronje has advised Coiner?
I Yeah, I mean, I don't. I think I see a couple of these Kronia Coiner questions here. I don't think there's much to comment on there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
no
Do they know
idea.
each other? Yeah, I believe so. But
Okay.
Yeah, with regards to rumors of, I don't know. Some people think that Coiner is Kronia. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay, interesting.
I think it's more fun than anything else.
I gotcha. Okay. So you kind of have covered this, but I guess more importantly, where the next question about strength and weaknesses against other lending platforms. I guess it would be, what is the weaknesses for you guys against other platforms, you think, if there are any?
Yeah. So we covered the strengths. Weaknesses. I mean, I guess a weakness is just you got to get a foothold in the market, which isn't a long-term weakness, but that's, obviously, like was mentioned, how do you get deep liquidity? Well, it's just a matter of getting your word out there and people understanding the sort of game mechanics at play here. But inherent weaknesses, I'm not. I'll have to. I might have to come back to that one and think about what's a good response to that.
Yeah, it's if there aren't any glaring ones, that's great. But I guess the it brings it to the next question, which is what the weakness you stated is, just awareness, right? So do you have any plans for marketing? I've got a couple of questions about that. So on how you're going to market. I mean, here's this today as an example. Working with Spookyswap as an example. Any other plans for marketing? I guess for your current and future holders.
Yeah, well, I guess in general, we're going for a more targeted approach. So yeah, having AMAs with people like or projects like Spookyswap. We've had a couple other AMAs, and we have a couple more upcoming over the next month. So I think it's definitely more of a targeted approach. I believe in a recent update we mentioned another marketing partner who we can't announce yet, but that would again be a very targeted approach to market ourselves to DeFi users. But yeah, aside from that, like, I don't think you're necessarily going to see us hiring, Twitter influencers to tweet about us, but or at least maybe not in the sense that most people think of it. But yeah, just kind of getting a foothold in specific communities.
Yeah, fair. Okay, so I've got a question. So the person's asking, if you borrowed a max interest rate of 10%, you can receive more dollar value in rewards if you are staking. So it's actually negative interest. Is that correct?
Yes, I think I think even if you're factoring in the 1% fee, it does go slightly positive. I would say it's more or less just negating your interest rate, but yeah, that is true. If you're staking, it's partly because of the 25% reduced fee there as well for staking. But yeah, so again, that's just plays into the incentives for borrowers to pay back more interest.
And then they're saying you can deposit at 10% and possibly receive your interest within hours if the platform is doing well.
So maybe this is just, maybe that's kind of a misunderstanding. So you can definitely see that your full interest is technically claimable because it's just measuring how much interest has been repaid since you deposited. So while it may be claimable, you can't necessarily, with withdraw it, which I guess that would be earning it because of the lockup periods.
Yeah, right. So on the platform, it would look like it's claimable, but it's still locked up. So yeah, it's not.
Correct. You can't withdraw, and you would have to withdraw to claim the interest.
Okay. Well, cool.
At least partially. Yeah.
Okay. So a question here: what did you learn from YLD? What are you going to do better?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that was learned. Well, yeah, a couple
Can you
things.
clarify what YLD is? Is that what you were saying was
Yeah, so
launching on?
yield was our previous platform that launched on Ethereum, and so yeah, well, one thing was don't have $500 fees, so that was fixed by leaving Ethereum. But seriously, one of the things was, so yield was like more was really like truly peer to peer, where people would put up lending offers, and then the borrowers would put up borrower requests, and then you would just match the offers to requests, kind of like a decentralized order book for lending, which it just wasn't efficient enough. So now with vaults, or as sort of this new take on vaults, you can have borrowers just take little chunks out of like $1 million deposit instead of having to find a borrower who's willing to borrow $1 million, or else this person with $1 million deposit gets paid nothing. So this way it's a lot more efficient. You don't have to match people one-to-one with requests and offers. The other thing that was learned is to just add more utility for the token. So as I mentioned, borrowers were incentivized in yield, but depositors really didn't have much use for the token at all. So now that we have we have like 5 different utilities for depositors and borrowers. Now that we have both users, have an incentive to use the token, I think that was another thing that that was learned.
So
Just expanding the token utility.
yeah. How long ago was Yield launched originally?
Well, yeah, I believe it launched in March. I want to say March. Yeah, I want to say March of this year. Excuse me, of 2021.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So can you explain? I've got another question here. Explain how Kanpeki differs from Aave and Compound with regards to taxes, i.e., that you don't need to buy a token to use the platform, and why that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I'll just preface that with, we're definitely not giving any tax advice or not tax advisors or anything like that. But that being said, I guess, yeah, depending on your jurisdiction, sounds like it's probably coming from more like a U.S. Or North America perspective, at least. You're not getting any sort of receipt or like a token in exchange for your deposit, which I believe in most jurisdictions would count as like a sale of your assets. So in this case, you're depositing your asset and you're not getting any sort of token to signify that. It's just there on chain. So because there's no exchange, I believe that would have positive implications in this case for taxes. I suppose if you were liquidated, that would kind of go out the door. But yeah, I mean, definitely don't quote me on that. But in my in my experience, those would be positive things.
Yeah, especially when you're talking big numbers. Okay. I don't have any other questions yet. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to make sure we mention?
Let's see. Well, I think we covered a lot here. History, all the utilities. I mean, I think that does think it does a pretty good job. I don't know if anyone was interested. Maybe we should talk briefly, actually, about inflation, which we touched on. So as you noted, it would in most cases be a slightly inflationary token. So I'm going to kind of read from the docs here because there's a good bit on that. So inflation in any sort in Kanpeki isn't it doesn't just happen on its own. So a borrower reclaims and pays and gets paid a reward for repayment. So any sort of meaningful inflation would require a significant amount of not only borrowers, but borrowers paying interest. B, it would need a significant amount of depositors seeking these higher rates because borrowers are borrowing the deposit tokens. And then C, it would require a scale of borrowing, especially depositing, that requires the participants to be staking and seeking to acquire more K token in order to maintain their stakes. That provides access to higher interest rates and rewards. So yeah, any sort of meaningful inflation would require a bunch of things to happen. But if those are happening, the depositors would be acquiring a new inflation generated by these borrowers in order to stake, thus reducing the active supply. So, as Coiner likes to say, it would be kind of suffering from success situation where it's inflation is seen as this kind of like boogeyman, but it's really not. I think inflation and deflation, for the most part, are kind of memes in a lot of cases.
Yeah, inflation
Yeah.
is just relative, right? I mean, it's relative to the expansion of the protocol or something. I mean, if no one's using it, there won't be a lot of coins minted. But if a lot of people are using it, they'll be minting coins, but then they'll be using the coins in the protocol. So
right, and the rewards are relative to the price of the K token in the app. So as the price of the token would go up, obviously those rewards would go down relatively in terms of their denomination in K.
yeah, so we got a couple more questions here. Talking about versus yield, yes. Will there be any more working with Spooky outside of this AMA? I mean, I think it's already been said that you guys are looking to add Boo as collateral eventually. Um, I think the answer would be yes to that. Have all the advantages of holding K been explained? I think so. I think we covered them all, as he wrote down here: unlocking rewards, platform fee discounts, etc. Yeah, I think we've covered it all. The protocol will burn K using fees accrued by the platform. Yeah, it's just making a statement. Coiner. Okay, I know K-Chan is a mascot. I'm just asking what what is she? Is she a bunny? Is she a lizard? What kind of combo is she? That was what I was getting at. So I don't see any other questions, I don't think, that we haven't covered. I think you guys have a very interesting protocol. I'm really excited to see it go. Now you didn't want to commit to a date, but do we have any kind of timeline? Are we going to see it this month? Can you commit to that?
I wouldn't commit to anything, but I think so.
Okay, so you think so. Okay, but we're not in the next couple of days. So sometime between 5 days and the end of the month, we may see it.
Sure.
Well, good. Okay. Well, we'll certainly be looking out for it. Anything we should expect from you guys before the protocol launches? Anything else that we should be looking for? Oh, I do have a question here. Is there a benefit to buying the K token right now, outside of using it for the protocol? I don't know what that would be, but other than just that people would want to have it as the protocol comes out. But is there any other particular things going on with your token outside of protocol launch?
Yeah. There's there's really no application. There's no way to use your tokens right now. Yeah, I guess if you wanted to talk about benefits, being able to get it before a platform launches, sure. But there's no sort of farm or anything for it at this point. But we expect that to change right around launch.
Is there going to be any kind of I know you had a fair launch. You don't have any plans to airdrop to Discord users or anything like that. I mean, nothing in regards to the coin right before protocol launches or anything like that. Or do you?
No such plans. No. But we would encourage people to use the app when it comes out, so you can. I guess that would kind of be like farming. Okay. But yeah, we do have to plan to have some liquidity incentives.
Okay, awesome. Okay. If anyone has any questions, they can continue in the chat. It's been an hour. I really appreciate. Uh, I've already forgotten. Is it Shy? Is this pronounced
Yes.
Shy?
Yeah.
Shy.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
So yeah, thanks for being here. I'm really looking forward to you guys launching and using it.
Yeah.
I like the aesthetic. You know, it's something that some people get wrong. I've talked to certain protocols that they just don't know why they don't have traction, and that is sometimes a reason. You know, when you're using a protocol, you want it to be attractive and look at it.
Mhm.
When everyone has choices, so that's something I certainly like about you guys.
I mean, it never seemed to hurt Curve with their Windows
No,
95 aesthetic. So
that's true.
each their own.
I'll say this: it has hurt Curve because I don't use it. No, I don't. I don't
You're
have a lot
boycotting
of.
the design.
Yeah, I think I was kind of put off. I'm just kind of put off by it a little bit. But I don't think they're missing I don't think they're missing what I could bring to them. But maybe it hurts them like by a tiny amount. So, but yeah, I really appreciate you guys spending your time here answering my questions in the community. Looking forward to working with you guys more in the future.
Yeah,
And
likewise.
I'm sure if anyone else puts questions in the chat that they'll answer them for you. So
Yeah, we'll stick around for a bit. No problem.
okay, awesome. Well,
Um,
thanks for being here, man.
yeah, thank you very much. So
You're welcome.
everyone can, if you have questions later on, and we don't have to be around, definitely you can join us in our Telegram, and I would encourage people to look through the documentation as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank
See you,
you.
man. Yep.
Have a
See you.
good